Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of One Vision, the FinTech Fuse. This is Theo and Barb, your host for the episode, and along with our lovely friend, Mary Winiski, who is coming back for a reunion.
Yes, I
Since
am.
Hello, hello,
Hello.
hello, hello. We will have you with us every single episode if we can.
Thank you.
And since we are about halfway through the year, this year flew by so quickly. It would maybe, perhaps, make sense to do a quick recap as well. So, without further ado, how has 2024 turned out to be for both of you? Is it the way that you thought it would be? Is it different? What's new?
I don't know. I'm probably too glass half full for my own good sometimes. I did not anticipate all the very public consent orders rolling along in banking land here. That I maybe I should have, but I didn't have that on my bingo card for the first half of 24, that's for sure.
What about you, Mary?
Oh gosh, what about me? I'm digging in my brain to be like, what did I have any thought like predict anything at the end of the year? And I don't think I did. So I don't think I'm surprised. I am, well, actually that's not true. I saw a headline, I forget, maybe it was Wall Street Journal, but it was talking about, or maybe it was Business Week. Either way, it was talking about banks celebrating how boring they are to as their main benefit, and that probably highlights what Barb just mentioned. But that's surprising. I mean, it's the pendulum swinging, right? Like now the bank wants to be perceived as boring. Rewind the clock a little bit. You want to be a little bit provocative.
Provocative and contained. Maybe we
They
can
don't
use
really
that
work
as the
together.
title
They
for
don't
the
really work
episode.
together. Yeah.
Is that picking up on some of those super spicy marketing campaigns we were seeing coming out last year, and then everyone's clearly leaping back and going, "Ooh, that's not a good thing right
Oh
now."
yeah,
Is that
there
what you
were
mean?
some spicy. Well, I mean, like in the earnings calls, you hear like the CEO being like, "Hey, we're boring." I mean, that's not a direct quote, but like I think it's just like your deposit. It's another way to say deposits are safe.
Yeah, deposits are safe and deposits are important. That's definitely one of the headlines for the last few months is how do we get more deposits? We need deposits. I don't even remember if I had any thoughts of how this year was going to turn out to be. I feel like ever since we stepped back out to the real world since COVID, I still use that as a marker. I don't know why. It feels like the world just condensed and collapsed and just everything going in hyperspeed. I can't keep up. Either that or I'm just getting older. I don't know which one it is. But boring is fine. Boring is important. I don't mind boring. I feel like the news has been going nonstop. I would prefer to have a boring day with no news. Unfortunately, that has not been the case. So, what are some of the things that caught your eye this year? Barb, you were talking about consent orders. So, let's talk about, banking as a service, cross-border fintech, which is hot, hot, hot right now. I mean, I should have been. We've been talking about it for a while now. I don't know why we're still talking about doing something. Small business, real-time payments, personal finance, et cetera, et cetera. What are some of the things top of mind for you?
I don't know. It feels like, maybe Mary's kind of pointing us the way here. Did banks feel like the only way to compete was to, put on a hoodie and pretend to be a startup? And so then the only way they knew how to do that was to move fast and break things. And here we find ourselves. Is that what happened? Building boring is important, but it has to be in service of something better, no? Like, okay, we could all just keep doing what we've been doing for the last, 40 or 400 years, depending on your time scale view of how finance works. But is that actually serving people better? So I think maybe people need to recheck themselves on, doing the right things right, but doing it in service of something better for the real people out there.
The real people. Really?
No, I like that. I like that because that's like a storyline I've paid attention to all these years of like, what you say, what you do. And I still largely believe there's a huge disconnect of like the average banker knowing the ways people live their life. And just like, if you want to like, just think of like financial health, I think the disconnect is really big of just like, you know, it's like a lot of individuals who earn regular income every other week or every month or whatever, and dreaming up, banking experiences for someone whose cash flow is very erratic. It's just, I don't know. I really believe you know, that the banking industry still needs to get in the room with humans. And I know there's all kinds of surveys and research, but what I hear, it seems very different from, the realities of the way people live.
Real people. It reminds me of my first Innovate. Was it my first, maybe my second? I can't remember now. One of the very, very early days when our team had a report that we had put together talking about like real people, right? What do people think about when they get older? What do they talk about at dinner table? What's on top of minds for them? And we put a really nice report together. My remit at that time was to present this to people that were coming to Finovate, those who were from banks, and so that we can start thinking about how do we better serve real people. I remember distinctly walking into that room that someone brought together the audience for me. It was 30 bankers, all in suits. They were all staring at me like, who is this person? A, because I didn't know anyone, and B, what are you talking about? And I still remember that because that image is seared to my head. I was talk about stage fright. That was the only time I could not say anything. I was like standing there. I'm like, yeah, okay, I can't do it. And so I gave it to Mark, the guys that was working with Jacob at the time, who did the report for us. And I'm like, Mark, you need to do this. I can't do it. I just can't. A, I don't think this is something they could relate to. B, I can't relate to them. And see, now I just want 30 guys in suits staring at me. I don't know if the world has changed much, to be honest with you. Talking about real problems and real challenges that people have. Recently, I was looking at headline news that talked about how more than 11,000 Americans will turn 65 every day between now and 2027. 11,000 Americans. We're talking about millions of people that will be tapping into Social Security in the next 3 years. And guess what? Newsflash, we're going to run out of money. It's going to go insolvent within the next decade if we don't change anything with the programs, with Social Security and Medicare. But this is not a new problem, right? So the same with financial well-being, Mary, to your point, that's not a new problem. Challenges with, uneven income. That's not new. We've known that for a while. What are people doing and what are people not doing? Their actions speak 1,000 words. The policymakers who don't have to worry about it, the bankers who don't have to worry about it. Can we actually finally do something? I don't know. I'm not hopeful these days, but maybe. I'm not sure. Cross-border fintech is interesting, though. I spotted a startup, I think it was on TechCrunch, that they were talking about a company called Pomelo. I don't know if you to see that.
I don't know the name.
Yeah, it's Pomelo. It's a fintech that was started in Philippines back in 2022. Their model, what caught my eye was Marianne called it the send now, pay later. So it's like a variation of the buy now, pay later model, except that this is a credit card on a remittance on credit card rails. So you can be, let's say, I'm here and I have family in the Philippines that I want to send money to. Instead of using your traditional remittance product, I can use the credit card from Pomelo, send money directly to Gcash, which is the mobile wallet that they use in the Philippines. And I don't have to pay that right away. I can pay it as I do with credit card. So the advantage of that being you can build up your credit as you do that. Meanwhile, your family abroad can get money right away in their mobile wallet. So those are really, really interesting, to your point, solving real people's problems, right? Because God knows we're a country of immigrants. We have a lot of people who are born here or who are living here who still have family abroad. So how do we solve that problem for the everyday people? So I'm hopeful, I guess, that we will be embarking on a new way of thinking about money. Not sure.
Well,
So we actually know the folks at Pomelo really well here at
Oh, you
Coastal
do?
Community Bank because they're our partner. And this story is meaningful for me individually because there's actually a huge Filipino community here in Winnipeg. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds here, that particular story for me, because, in my work life, they're a partner. in my home life. They're such a strong part of our community. So super funny that you surfaced that one up, but it's a meaningful one for me.
Talk about coincidence and is
Mm-hmm.
meaningful because, I feel like oftentimes when we talk about solutions for, the underrepresented people, oftentimes we talk about lending, right? We don't really talk about the real life, everything other aspect of what they do. Mary, you were saying something?
I was gonna that the thing that I've been thinking about a little bit is like um I think I wonder if she'll be at Finovate, but Frida, the founder of Debbie, who rewards people for paying down their debt and also for savings, like that's on my mind as an idea of like, I mean, talk about rethinking a business model for a bank or a credit union, rewards for paying down debt. But I think that this was this year. Sezzle was trying out gamifying people for making on time buy now pay later payments. So like that's just two examples, but I'm really curious if this like moves in any direction because I am not too familiar with rewards for paying down debt as a thing, but I'd be really curious. I'd be really, really curious if there will be more examples of this and like what that must feel like for someone like doing that to walk into the room that you just described. Well, if men are still wearing suits, I know they are, but maybe less so at some of the fintech events.
Yeah, people will be like, what do you mean paying down debt? No, we want you to keep the debt.
Yes. Yes.
Exactly. That is one of the things I still remember around the same time when the report came out. I remember I was approached by someone working for a big bank at the time, and we were talking about solutions for older adults. And he was like, "Oh yeah, why don't we, work on a credit card solution?" I'm like, "For what exactly?" And he said, "Well, then that way they can combine all of their debts and maybe get more debt." What? Excuse me? What? Why?
Ta-da!
Right? Why is that even something that you would consider? Bring it to us. You know that we are looking at solutions for older adults. Older adults, you want to give them more debt? What? Why exactly? Okay, I get that it works for your business model, but it doesn't work for normal people. How about we help them pay down what they have? Anyway, I'm done ranting. So let's talk about the rest of the year. I will be on the lookout for Debbie. I don't know them, Mary. So let me
I,
find them. That'll be
yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
Okay, so 2024. The other big buzzword for the year is artificial intelligence. And I think last year we talked about that a little bit. AI, everything under the sun, ever since ChatGPT came into light. Gosh, year and a half ago, more than. I'm losing track of time. In some ways, a lot of people are saying that because of the AI buzzword, a lot of the attention and funding has turned away from fintech, and we have seen fundraising has gone down a little bit with fintech. Curious with the two of you, do you think this will continue for the rest of the year? Do you think fintech's going to bounce back? Are we hopeful?
I feel like we've seen this movie before, haven't we? Right? Every single pitch deck, as long as you had the word crypto in there, guaranteed to rain down the money. Now everybody's got a .ai top level domain. Whatever we were, we're now .ai and come and consume our wares. I think people are missing the fundamental point. This is like a garbage in, garbage out scenario, and I apologize to every organization out there that's actually doing these things well. If you do not have your data strategy set and have that foundation in place, you cannot lay any model on top of that. I don't care if it's generative. I don't care if it's, an actual model that you have built or someone else has built. Does not matter. If you haven't got your data state in place, you're wasting your time. And so this is a message to all ye bankers out there. Think about your fundamentals first and then get to your fancy stuff later. So it's sort of what you said, Mary. Boring is not bad, but it has to be boring for the right purpose.
Right. I'm really glad you brought that up because I was just in conversation with someone named Eric Siegel, who is a professor at Columbia, and his lifelong career has been predictive analytics, but he just wrote a book called The AI Playbook. But one of the things he kept telling me was like, hey, these data scientists build the models for the companies, but the biggest problem is then they aren't deployed. And that just made me laugh a lot because I was like, hey, I get that from like any creative thing I've ever done with my life, which of course isn't like exactly proven in the way that would be proven, but it's like, wow, that's just, I can absolutely see that scenario happening. on repeat, but his other point was like, you have to start from the end point, just like you would do a script of like, you know the ending, so you know how to, so you know what you're working toward.
You know, I read books backwards. I always read the ending
What?
first. I do. I always
What?
read the last chapter, the ending. I want to know how the
Even if
story
it's like,
ends.
what if it's like just nonfiction, drier? Do you read the ending
That's all
first?
I read. All of my books are nonfiction.
Spoiler: thesaurus.
Were you the
The
kid
last
that
word ends in Z.
were you the kid that went to the end of the choose your own adventure and then reverse engineered how to take the various paths to get to the various endings? You must have been that person.
She's nodding. She's
Yeah,
nodding.
you didn't know that? Like literally, I always start with the end. I read articles like that too.
Well, you know what? The kicker quote ought to be the best quote.
Well,
So,
because normally, like, I want to see how you want to wrap up your points. I don't know. Some people get really annoyed. They're like, "No, Theo, you need to enjoy the journey." I'm like, "No, I just want to see how you end. If I don't like the ending, I don't like how you conclude the story or your point, then I'm not going to read it. That's bad, right? Okay. All right.
not bad.
2026 resolution.
It just depends. Like if you're going into a feature story, I think it'd be more fun to start to ending. But
All right.
that
Well,
doesn't
here's
happen.
a challenge for all of you who are listening. Find me an interesting story or a book that will capture my attention in the first page so I won't go to the end. Until then, I'm going to start from the back. But with AI, yes, and you're absolutely right, Barb. I remember this story. This was back in, oh my God, what was the last AI hype cycle? This has got to be 20, maybe 16 or so. I remember getting a deck, and I told this story before. The deck was 3 page. The first page was a background of the founders, men, white, of course. I mean, what else? So the second page was we use AI to improve your ROI and NL. No, we use AI and NLP to improve your ROI. And then the third page was contact us. That was it. And I got this pitch deck from a company in California. I'm like, you're wasting my time. You literally just wasted my time to read through your 3 page because it doesn't tell me anything. The fact that you came from some sort of college in California is not interesting. I'm absolutely not interested in your pictures either. And your 1 page telling me that you use AI and NLP to solve ROI, what does that even mean? You throw a bunch of acronyms in there that doesn't really address anything. So please, for the love of God, don't do that. And I wouldn't be surprised if people are still doing it. Everything has a .ai. Barb, maybe we should change the name of the show.
Maybe we should.
FinTech
But
Fuse.
to try and but to try and make this actionable maybe for listeners, here's what I would love to see, because I guess, fundamentally I am a buyer of things, and quit showing up in my emails cold because I'm not reading them, by the way. But I would like
You missed
for
this.
And stop calling Barb, please.
Right, I'm screening your calls too, so don't try that channel either.
Mm.
I think financial services needs to stop bringing knives to this AI gunfight. This is reality for us, right? Every other day, you're probably picking up some kind of story about somebody used some sort of AI or, generative AI technique to fool the humans. So those of us that are tasked with protecting what is ultimately the most valuable resource that we in financial services now hold, which is people's data, we can't keep using the tools of yesteryear to fight against the nefarious actors that are now using a completely different tool set. So that's what I would like to see over the balance of the year, is that people are actually using the right tools for the right job, fit for purpose tools always, but recognizing we do live in a different landscape now. So help us help you is sort of my ask out there to all you entrepreneurs, and help enable us with tools that are relevant for the fight that we're now in.
I feel like there's a Star Wars element in there somewhere. Go find the right lightsaber.
This is like the ragtag band of rebels fighting against the evil empire of nefarious actors. I totally agree with you there.
We can't have a conversation, Barb, with you without Star Wars reference. And we did that last time with Matthew. So that is, Mary, what else? What else is going to be on your mind for the rest of the year?
Oh,
Predictions?
What's going to be on my mind for the year?
Oh, we should talk about your podcast. That is new, right?
Well, that will be on my mind for the
Yes.
rest of the year. So that answers that. Yes. Yes. That is my show that hit mid-April. Money Isn't Everything. That will be exploring early stage fintech ideas. So it comes out every other Thursday. And yeah, it's fun for me. I never thought to be a host of a podcast, but what has been missing for me is interviewing people. So it's a thrill just for that, but it's also a thrill because it lets me be in conversation with people maybe I spoke with like a decade ago. And it's like, I think that reveals so much, like things that haven't happened or things that have happened, or I don't know. I'm in a real like emotional part of my life where I'm feeling like past and present in a really like strong way.
Oh, past and present and future, Mary.
I have not been so focused on that. But yes, future is also important.
Well, maybe more articles like the one that you wrote, right? That is a little different. That's not fintech. That was fun.
Yes.
I remember you like that.
I do like that. Yeah, essays here and there. But it's even that exercise, it makes you feel so exposed, even in the process, even before you've published it, just because you're like, oh, it's very different writing about yourself versus writing about banking. Yeah.
Well, I did hear someone had told me that the good thing about working in our industry is that we talk about change, but nothing really changed. So there goes that. That would be my prediction for the rest of 2024.
Wow. Well, that feels fair. And it also feels fair, I guess, to bring it back to the beginning of the call, is just like, I feel like there's less creative endeavors maybe going on at financial institutions across America. I feel like that won't result in anything provocative as a result, but you never know. There's always surprises. There's always scary stories. Oh, here's something I am thinking about: overdraft fees. Now the price is changing, and then it's been on my mind how credit unions charge a lot for them in California, or that data was exposed. And so, that's another example of things that have always long been in the news and continue to be in the news and even renewed.
Or here's another one. What will CFPP be occupied with? They have been very, very busy the last, 12, 18 months or so. So I'm curious to see what else they're going to do. I mean, say what you will, I think by and large, a lot of the things that they're thinking about, that they're drawing attention to, has been beneficial to consumers. So I know not everyone will agree with that, but it's about time that someone actually looks after the well-being of consumers. Now, of course, we don't know how things are going to turn out because the agenda does flip. Depends on who is in charge on Pennsylvania Avenue.
We haven't even begun to untuck that. That is going to be the thing to follow.
Oh my God. Maybe that's why banking is boring, because we are too occupied of looking at what else outside of banking that's going to happen. Talk about AI, talk about deepfakes. We've already seen a little bit of that. So I don't know what's going to happen. Here's something else. Recently, I opened, finally, my first digital banking account in Hong Kong.
Oh, congratulations.
I needed that because I'm like, as oftentimes as I keep going back and forth, it really does not make sense to have nothing overseas, even though I do bank with a global bank, but it doesn't work over there. Even when I use the ATM overseas, it charges me extra for a non-bank ATM. I don't know how that works. But anyway, that process was so seamless. And this is a digital bank that was created by an incumbent, which was even more fascinating. So it's not a new brand per se. It's not a big tech like what we would have with the Apple experience. It's literally an incumbent that they stood up a standalone digital bank. It was so quick. We did the validation. So I scanned the front and back of my ID card. They did a facial scan on the app. You put in the address, boom, that was done. It was so easy. And I'm like, oh. And you could use it right away. And it's going to come with a physical card as well, which I think it probably arrived. And I'm like, why can't we do something similar? Right? And here we still need to sign things. there are still many, it's not even just about the steps, it's about the usability and the features that come with that. And backdrop, one of the reasons why I wanted to open that account is because everything, I wouldn't say everything, but a lot of things have gotten digital. And whenever I go out to eat, I can't pay my friends in cash. They all looked at me like, why are you using cash? They all use PayMe, which is a means, an open banking ways of splitting bills and doing person-to-person payments. And you can only use that if you have a local bank account. It's kind of like a PayPal Venmo, but it's created by banks in Hong Kong.
I feel like you're reinforcing my continual non-prediction that open banking is not a thing and still is not going to be a thing.
Yeah.
It's still not a thing right now, clearly. Yeah. To bring in the Canadian flavor, we've given a whole shiny $1 million.
You did.
1 million to make it a thing here in Canada. Which for those that are playing along is, I don't know, like 650,000 US maybe. So apparently we're gonna make a go of it.
Of course you will.
We'll
Come on.
see.
It's like the UK government.
I have a prediction. Wow, I just realized those 4-pound weights I lift hurt. I just weighed my arms and realized, wow, that repetition of 15 really did my arms in.
What are you doing?
Lifting
aside, your dog up and down.
That aside, I am following something. I'm seeing more momentum of like, or it's appearing in contracts, or there's little pilots of like allowing consumers to cancel subscriptions from like a bank app or a fintech app. And so I think Chase even has it in its terms and conditions, like cancel subscriptions. I don't know if the thing is live yet or not, but I was like, oh, this is something everyone's talking about. Like, what's the next big mobile banking app thing? And I feel like, well, that's just as well, it depends who it is, but that seems just as engaging as getting a payday a couple days early, ability to like shut down your subscriptions if it happens in an easy way.
I would love that. Because
right?
How many of these subscription things I signed up, and as much as I try to put a reminder to cancel, I always forget. There's one, actually, I need to do that today, that's been charging me. I keep forgetting to cancel. If I can do that with a credit card, that would be amazing.
Wouldn't it be amazing? Because some of them will force you to call like their number, blah, blah, blah.
Yes. And then there are some newer ones that said, oh, sorry, you're going to change, you're going to cancel, but don't worry, all the money that you have paid, we'll keep your service until like 10 months or 11 months from now. So I've had ones where I paid and it said, we'll cancel, but it's going to be a future date cancel.
Yeah, wow.
Apparently it was embedded in the terms and conditions. I didn't even know. I'm like, wait, what? So, okay, that's not cool. So they are getting very creative, and I would love to see credit card companies shutting it down. That would be nice. That would be something nice that they're doing for consumers.
Right?
Yeah. And along with, what was the other thing I was so excited about? This was years ago. Acorns. Set it and forget.
Yeah.
You'd be amazed how much money, like, spare change that I have over the years. And I've signed up the kids for the accounts too. It's just something little that they can go shopping with and stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
Little things matter.
Yes. Yeah, little things do matter.
Yes. So before we close, quick question. Now that everyone found out that I read books from the back, what books are you two reading right now? Anything interesting for summer?
I picked up the Dune series again because I got obviously back into that. My husband and I are used to be huge into going to the movies back in the before times when people actually did that. And I don't think we do that anymore, but we were late watchers of the first reboot of Dune. And then of course the second one has come up, and I had read those as a kid, and I think I probably understand them better now. So I've gotten back into Dune, which has been super fun.
I love that. I still want to watch that second movie, the new one. What about you, Mary?
Well, I'm going to need a new book soon, but what I've been nursing is The Origin of Species by Darwin, because I was in the Galapagos and I wanted to read that book while I was there, but I'm reading it very slowly, and it's actually pretty interesting. So, but yeah, I think I need more of a summer read next. So
slowly,
any recommendations, hit me up.
I do, but mine are very boring. I just finished the ESG Mindset by our friend Matthew Sequel. That was a good one. And now I have two on deck. One is called AI for Good, and the other one is called The Coming Wave. So both are around technology, AI, and I believe both of them are actually referencing Microsoft use cases. But here's one for you, Mary. If you were reading Darwin, there's a book called The Fourth Turing is Here, and what the seasons of history tell us about how and when the crisis will end. I have it on the shelf. I am planning to take it with me for summer. It's supposedly a really good book. So
Cool. I just wrote it down.
it's a referencing history, looking at what we're doing right now and what the future might hold. So voila, here you go. Well, thank you so much for a fascinating, always fascinating conversation. And we need to think about adding AI in next time to the show name. And for the rest of our listeners, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of One Vision with Barb and Mary. And we'll talk to you all next week.